Have you ever wondered why certain parenting advice seems to work really well for other families, but when you try it with your children, it doesn't seem to shift anything? You just stay stuck and overwhelmed in the same old chaotic mornings and tense weekends. In our work at Peace Talks, we've noticed some pretty reliable patterns about what actually works when it comes to helping parents to change their challenging family dynamics. I'm going to talk you through the reliable process that we use to support parents to make lasting changes in their lives. This process of change can be visualized as a pyramid with 4 layers. Each of these layers provides the solid foundation for the next. Or if you prefer, you could think of this as a pointy layered cake because, cake is more fun. I'm going to be starting at the top of the pyramid and working down because this is the way we most commonly think of how change works. But what you're going to see is that the real secret to making lasting change in our family lives is not simply the steps that you take, but the order you do them in. At the end, I'm going to help you figure out which step you would need to start with in order to shift your family to an easier, more peaceful place. At the top of the pyramid, we have all of the challenges of our daily lives with children, the behaviour we find difficult, the conflict. This could be a child who isn't going to bed easily, won't get into the car each morning, who spends a lot of time on screens, or kids who are always fighting with each other. For most of us, when we're overwhelmed and struggling, our full focus is here at the top. We focus our full energy on trying to fix these problem behaviours, imagining that by changing our child's behaviour, we'll restore some peace and harmony into our lives. And the way that we tend to try to deal with these problems when we're stressed and overwhelmed is by using the patterns and techniques that we learned when we were children. Shouting, yelling, rewards and punishment, blame, judgment, criticism, force or threats. As you've probably experienced, many of these ways of reacting actually increase the overwhelm and stress in our family lives. So a very powerful way to bring about change is by learning new, peaceful ways to manage these difficult situations, ways to manage conflict with our children, learning new patterns to interact with our children in these challenging moments. This is a really important part of the approach that we teach in our courses, learning dialogue skills so that you can find ways to communicate with your child in times of conflict, skills of empathic listening so that you can really understand what's going on for your child, and learning how to express yourself and what matters most to you so that your child can actually hear you. I imagine if you're watching this, you've probably already heard quite a lot of parenting advice that addresses this part of the pyramid. You might have read some books, been to some courses, or heard people talking about what they do in challenging moments. Some of this may have made a lot of sense to you, but maybe when you tried it yourself, you found that it didn't really take hold in your family. Try as you might, it didn't seem to shift the problems that you were experiencing. Let me tell you why. The thing is, this final layer of our pyramid, it turns out that this is really just the icing on the proverbial cake. I'm no baker, clearly, but I do know that it doesn't make much sense to put the icing on until you have a cake. Yeah, it doesn't work. Learning peaceful ways to manage behaviour and conflict is a really important step to bringing about more peace in your family life. But it's not the only step, and it may not be the first step to take if your family is struggling. There are other important foundational pieces lower down that you may have missed, layers that need to be solid and well-baked. A vital foundational step that's so often missed in mainstream parenting advice is reconnecting with your child. There's now an abundance of research and evidence available about the importance of building strong attachment with your child. There are books, articles, longitudinal studies, brain imaging evidence, even whole parenting methodologies devoted to the importance of connection. But somehow, when we're stuck in the chaos of daily parenting challenges, this step can seem frivolous somehow. It's not that we don't want happy, joyful, fun times with our children. I'm sure most of us really do. In fact, I'm guessing that part of the reason you clicked on this video was something to do with this. But you might be imagining that this kind of fun, close connection would follow a change in your child's behaviour. A common thought about this is, if I give my child lots of extra hugs and cuddles and shoulder pats while they're still behaving in this way that I find atrocious, won't this just reward their outrageous behaviour? This kind of logic is the deep, painful legacy of behaviourism, the idea that our children are basically like lab pigeons and that we can use reward and punishment to shape their behaviour, turning them into fine, upstanding citizens. Fortunately, your child is not, I presume, a pigeon. Despite popular ideas that have come from this about effective parenting being about discipline or firm boundaries, the only real power we have with our children is the magical evolutionary power of connection. And it turns out that this power is really freaking powerful. What makes modern parenting so challenging is that we're working against multiple pressures on this connection with our children. Jobs, school, daycare, social media, screens, long commute times, homework. Our busy, hectic world is not designed to prioritise this precious human connection. And when this connection is strained, our peace and functioning as a family will suffer, and so will we. In one sense, connection with our children is one of the easiest steps we might take. Small changes in how we relate to our children can make an enormous and immediate change to our relationship. You can absolutely learn to redirect the enormous energy that you're currently leaking into managing difficult behaviour challenges and conflict, and pour this instead into building this reliable, consistent, joyful daily connection with your children. But what you may have discovered if you've tried to implement this kind of advice is that it might actually be quite hard for you. You might find that trying to create a closer connection with your children feels a bit stilted or uncomfortable. It may even be quite triggering and painful for you. You might notice a strong resistance to it. In the poetic words of one father I worked with recently, this is f***ing impossible. If connection is so natural and important to humans, and we're all evolved for it, and all our ancestors did it, why should it be so damn difficult for us? Well, essentially, rekindling this beautiful birthright of ours is going directly against many decades of training and habituation into other ways of living. It's hard for us because we've been shaped to think, react and behave in certain ways that really go against this connection. This is why this layer, while absolutely vital to creating family peace, may not be the first step. Before we're able to connect deeply with our children, we first need to learn how to connect with ourselves. Many of us have very little connection to what's happening below our necks. We're stuck in a constant flurry of mind activity with very little understanding of how to connect with our emotions, with our bodies, with our moment-to-moment lived experience. This makes it really hard for you to regulate your emotions, to calm your nervous system, or to understand your needs and how you can meet them regularly and consistently. Quick test. Did you cringe a little when I said the word needs? Did you hear it as needy? This is because we're trained from a very early age to think that if we have feelings or needs, we're pathetic and needy. You as a parent learning the skills of self-connection is essential to your family functioning more peacefully. Some of the skills we teach in our courses are learning to interrupt your habitual patterns of thinking and reacting and build awareness of your feelings and your needs. Learning to self-regulate in stressful moments. Creating daily habits that can support you to stay regulated, present, and to care for your needs with compassion. Having these kinds of regular habits of self-connection can help you to find a solid, stable place from which to parent your children. This may seem obvious enough to any of us who have spent any time learning meditation or mindfulness or yoga or taken ourselves to visit a therapist. We understand somehow that we need to build our own inner connection to ourselves so that we have something to offer our children. But we might also have experienced real challenge and frustration when we've actually tried to do this. Perhaps you have tried to develop a regular journaling habit or a self-connection routine, and maybe you've ended up giving up because it just feels too hard. It's unsustainable. It can all get quite messy. Beneath our cake, we might still be missing an essential layer. The essential first layer that we tend to miss when we're trying to bring about change in our family dynamics is our own capacity, our inner resources, our energy, our motivation, the resources that we have to keep going. As parents, so often we're living at the very edge of our capacity. You may be worn down from supporting your children and the demands of keeping your busy life going. We're conditioned to push ourselves, to operate beyond our capacity, to keep going when we're feeling stressed. We're so often overwhelmed and dysregulated and end up reacting to our children in ways that are not at all aligned with the way we would like to parent them. The challenge is that when you're operating outside of your capacity, you have far less ability to solve problems, to reason, to manage your emotions, to empathize, or to engage with other people in a caring way. This means that conflict and challenging behaviour is so much more likely. This is unfortunately also the time that we most need everything to be working smoothly. Rebuilding a basic level of capacity for yourself is therefore the first and top priority for making changes in your family life. This means taking really seriously how important you are to your family. Prioritising your energy means reassessing what you say yes to, learning to say no to things that drain you, and taking responsibility for how you can care for your time and your energy. What I've witnessed time and time again, both in my own life and in those I work with, is that by bringing all of these elements together, we can create a really reliable method for making lasting change in families. It works reliably because each part in the correct order supports the next. When I have a little bit more capacity, I'm better able to take care of myself and clearly identify what I need. When I'm more connected with myself, I'm better able to show up fully for my children. And when I'm more deeply connected to my children, they're naturally more settled, operating from a calm and open nervous system state. They tend to behave in ways that are easier for me to manage. Conflict and tension arise far less often, but when it does arise, if I'm able to use the skills that I've learned to manage the conflict, then I can maintain the peace in our family. We can move through tension in a way that cares for all of us and that makes sure that all of our needs are met. This change pyramid cake system thingy works so effectively precisely because all of these elements are so interconnected. Change at any level impacts every other level, for good or for bad. So how do you know where to start? If you're feeling stuck, whether it's just today or in general in your life, take a moment and think, which of these levels are you feeling most stuck at? Are you unsure how to use peaceful ways to manage conflict? If so, it's probably a challenge at the icing level. Are you missing a certain quality of close, loving connection with your children? If so, it's probably at the top tier. Are you feeling dysregulated and overwhelmed a lot and out of touch with what's happening in your inner world? If so, it's probably a bottom tier cake problem. Or are you simply out of juice, exhausted by your life, in which case you may need a platter. The secret to making lasting change in your family is to pick the lowest level at which you notice you're stuck and start there. Make a little change, any change at that level to create more space, more openness, and notice the magic that happens elsewhere in your life. But wait, you might be saying, how am I supposed to get more capacity? How do I even start this all off if I don't have any energy? Maybe I don't even have any platters left. Maybe I gave them all away when I was on a decluttering spree last spring. The challenge is that any change at all, even just changing a grubby t-shirt, might require more energy, resources, and support than you have right now. This is sadly the new normal for so many modern parents. We're tired, we're depleted, we're worn down. We don't have the energy to start this process of change. If this is you, take a moment to watch this video now and I'll show you some ways to find the extra resources you need to take your first step towards creating this self-feeding system.